Hi guys, welcome back to the Transcontinental Ladder series. I took a break for a few games, mostly just because life got kind of busy, and these videos do take um, some time to make. So um, yeah, it takes longer to take each turn, and it takes some editing. But anyway, I figured I have some time this time of year, and I can make this video. I've been successfully maintaining my rank in Aristotle. We've added quite a few new players to the ladder, so that's exciting. I don't remember which. Let's see. Last round. Gary won. I got second place, and another player, Saru, was got third. And so Saru is now back in Bonaparte, but Yang Zijuan, who was in this rung 2 rounds ago, he's back for a second shot at it. So we're gonna see what happens here. It looks like I'm in the third slot. Yang Zijuan has taken Aristotle, and Gary Pan has taken Hammurabi and Urban Growth. So here I am in the third slot with a few options. Um, there's Alexander is one, and then you could go. I could go pyramids, patriotism. Julius Caesar's not really all that great of a leader, I don't think. Um, then there's, of course, there's engineering genius, patriotism. Um, all those are pretty decent, and I'd hate to leave. I can't take both pyramids and engineering genius, which is kind of unfortunate because one of those I'm going to leave to Yang Zijuan on his turn. Now, looking again at the leaders, they each took a leader: Aristotle, Hammurabi, the two best leaders as far as I'm concerned. So, if I did something like this, my third favorite leader, Alexander, he's gonna actually fall off before it gets back to my turn because Yang Zijuan's taking engineering genius, and that's gonna put Alexander over here. So I would be looking at, maybe if these people come out, maybe Moses, maybe Homer. And not only are they maybes, but they're probably not going to show up as a 1 for me. They're probably going to show up as a 2 on my next turn. So, with all that said, I'm actually going to take Caesar and pyramids. And Caesar's not, of course, not my favorite. I'm going to be looking. I'll be looking to replace him as soon as possible. But this will let me do other things on my second turn, rather than trying to reach for a leader and elect him. I'll be able to do other things. So maybe grab a key tech. Um, who knows? There might be an H1 tech that shows up in this area. Um, so as predicted, Yang Zijuan does take engineering genius. Doesn't have a wonder yet, but he's lined up for a few choices. Gary's going lab first instead of bronze. Takes the library for 2. Seems pretty strong, Hammurabi library. So I have a couple interesting paths, and this is actually a pretty interesting decision to make because I could take monarchy here, and then I think my next 2 actions would be Caesar and increase pop, and increasing pop rather than a bronze in case one of the freebies comes up. That gets me the extra military draw. I could possibly have 2 political actions next turn, and that's with the increased pop. Um, and I don't really mind, especially with Caesar out. I don't mind starting the first round with 2 bronze because Caesar tends to push out a lot of resources anyway. That being said, though, I'm not super excited about Monarchy because I do have Pyramids. And Monarchy is, I think Monarchy, it's still good with Pyramids, don't get me wrong. But I think it's not as needed right now. And if I let it go, then Yang Zijuan will have the same tough choice because he'll have it also for two. So he might have to grab it for two rather than let Gary take it for one. So I'm going to go ahead and just increase pop, do the standard bronze opening, and then Caesar, and it's either so I could go Richland here or Frugality. I'm actually going to go Frugality. Great. So Yang Zijuan did end up taking Monarchy for two, keeping it out of Hammurabi's hands. That sucks. I would have loved to have Joan of Arc. Um, oh well. Oh, two. Iron for two. I guess he didn't like anything else. He's been a huge fan of Taj Mahal these last couple games, but I guess it's just too early to spend two actions on that. Um, so I have two events that are going to reward strength, and I have irrigation and swordsman at one civic action. I really like this setup for playing those events because irrigation swordsmen are great for building strength, and this also I can see a potential Genghis play here with the heavy cav. So I'm definitely going to play Reign of Terror and possibly Crusades. We'll see what this is. Okay, yeah, I don't have a corruption threat just yet because I can increase pop and do that. Even if I were to get another two resources or something, I would not face corruption. So feeling pretty good about that. However, I think I'd rather. I mean, I'm definitely taking these, and I think what I'd rather do is just wait and see if I can get maybe two aggressions. And if I can do that, then I'll go in the direction of setting up swordsmen and playing those aggressions. Another minor factor here going into this is that if I were to play Crusades and a free warrior pops out, I can't take advantage of that. Nobody can. But if I wait and one of them pops it out, then I can take advantage of it, whereas they cannot. Not a big deal, really. Probably not going to happen, but just one more reason to go ahead and just wait on this Crusades. So I got one aggression out of all that. Um, I'm glad to see rats in my hand because I'm not gonna play it, but I'm gonna be happy to play irrigation, knowing that there are no rats coming. I probably won't play cultural influence. Just just because it doesn't look like a culture build right now for me. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next turn. I'm really glad to see Genghis Khan here, though. He's probably going to end up at two for me, which is a lot, but this is such a strong Genghis build that I don't think I can resist him even at two. And look at that development of warfare. It's going to be one of those games. Cartography is interesting. He's played one event, and he has two other cards. Gary's going for some early iron and engineering genius. Wow. That's a lot of iron, a lot of resources. Wonder what he's gonna do with all that. Well, so that puts Genghis at one, which is amazing. Um, and then warfare. Warfare is. It's like, I got every card I need for a really strong Genghis push. I would like more aggressions, of course, but those will come. So I'm gonna go ahead and play Crusades. Let's see what happens here. Okay, two science. And for the second political, I know, I know I'm not going to have a huge culture per turn score. It might even be zero. But by playing it, I am pushing these events forward. Um, let's see what happens if I don't play it. I get the warrior. I can get out of, yeah, just there. I'm out of corruption. So if the second event is two resources, I can always throw them on the wonder and I'm fine. I can still take the two things I really want to take. So, yeah, I don't mind playing this second event here, which would be cultural influence. Okay. Wow. Well, there's the second aggression there, too. Great. All right, building the free warrior. We're going to get ourselves out of corruption and out of rebellion or civil uprising or whatever. Taking these and then. So, yeah, it would have been nice to get irrigation going, but that's just not going to happen. So, yep, that's the only thing I can do here is build that last stage. Actually, thinking about it some more here, I only really need to do this for the possible corruption case. I do have one action which I could use for either swordsman or warfare. Um, so swordsman, if I did that, I would push one guy up to swordsman. I would want to keep 6 resources for next turn so I can finish the pyramids and get one more, get that going, just get the ball rolling on that. But but I would get the one upgrade and probably want to do that, get the fighting band out. And this helps me maintain the dominance when there are some strength based events coming up. However, I don't think I don't think even that's the best play because at this point I have 2 events left, but I'm not really interested in playing either of them. In fact, I'm going to discard them right now. And so I have the strength. I have some kind of weak strength based events. Reign of Terror is, it sucks to be the weak guy, but it's not going to really help me that much. Crusades, okay, I steal points from somebody. That's all right. I would rather, but what I really would like to do is I'd like to draw some more events that I do want to play. I don't think that I'm going to be doing any aggressions next turn, even if I max this out and went to 6. Gary, well, let's see. Yang Zijuan, Knights is going to fall off the map for Gary. Yang Zijuan hopefully sees that and takes Swordsman, um, and he's going to be fine for strength. Gary, without any Swordsman or any red tech, he still has Joan of Arc. He puts a theology down for +3 strength, and then he's fine because he has Joan and he has 3 strength, or sorry, +2 strength puts him at 3. He has 3 military actions. He's fine. He's not going to lose to an aggression. So I'm not planning to do that on aggression next turn, um, and so I'd rather play an event and keep this the strength build rolling. And so for that reason, I'd actually rather play Warfare because what Warfare lets me do is it lets me play Legion and still have 3 military card draws and hopefully draw an event out of that. And as long as I'm doing that, I might as well also get Genghis going because there's 3 more points. that I get. And 3 points is 3 points. I mean, why wouldn't I? Before I get rid of him, I will use Julius's military action so that when I elect Genghis, I lose the military action that I already used, and then get warfare. Okay, so I still have a pretty dominant strength. They Gary's probably going to go, like I said, to three. He's going to be the weakest, and so this Reign of Terror is going to hit him. So I'm accomplishing all the short term goals I want to accomplish, and planning to finish pyramids next turn, and setting myself up to where I'm gonna keep these three cards, and of course I have to wait for the food to catch up, and I'm thinking next turn it'll be probably finish pyramids and get the irrigation going. All right, so let's end the turn and see what we draw with three actions. Yeah, scientific breakthrough, that's very playable, even though Ying Zijuan does have an advantage here. There's actually a chance that I raid Yang Zijuan's alchemy before that hits, so even better. Oh, good, there's that third warrior that I need. Yeah, so Yang did see that opportunity to deny Gary Pan the Knights by taking Swordsman. He could have taken both, but he had other priorities, irrigation being one of them. And Yang Zijuan is now stronger than me, which is somewhat annoying. There's the Crusades in there, and I would like those 4 points. And so Gary does go Joan, elects Joan for the third MA. So he's untouchable right now. And this was the trade-off that I made. I could have gone to 6 military, and Gary would have had to do something else. But such it is as it is. I'm liking. I think I'm going to play Scientific Breakthrough here. And let's look at the events again. Cultural influence, Crusades. I would be a little sad if Crusades came out, but I'd be pretty happy for Reign of Terror right now. That would put Gary back at 1 free pop. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and do that and push this out and see what happens here. Okay, well, that's fine. That gets it out of the way before the culture difference gets too huge. I only lost 2 points to Gary here, so. So in most circumstances with 7 resources and a pyramids to finish, I would finish the pyramids, and from there look at some future value like iron and reserves and being a builder. However, with Genghis Khan, Crusades and Reign of Terror coming up, and 2 aggressions, plunder and raid, I think it's actually better to just continue along that same theme and instead go for swordsman, get that third swordsman, and let's see, I need the last military action for that. And now I'm at 10. I believe, okay, so it's hard to say what's going to happen after this because I believe Yang Zijuan did cede 2 territories with his cartography. But good things are probably going to happen out of this because Yang Zijuan's going to have a really tough time bidding on these territories. He's got an alchemy to protect. So I'm either going to, win some of these strength-based events or or maybe get a territory out of the deal. Um, Gary's gonna have a tough time getting getting within range of me. So worst case, well, let's talk about the most likely case, which is I think that I'm gonna have to plunder Gary Pan for the third food because look, I'm gonna have two food next turn. I'm about to lose these two, and I need that third food in order to get to the next pop so that I don't have an uprising. So actually, there are a few ways I could solve that. Of course, I could just take reserves, and now I have food. And of course, I could take theology, but that has the problem of I can't afford pyramids and theology. So yeah, it has to be the solution has to involve food. I'm gonna take reserves for the food. So thinking about some more, I Yang Zedjuan, he is going to be able to get bread in circuses. It might be a struggle for him to do that, but I mean, if I were to take theology, I don't think I'm necessarily putting him in like I don't know. It's hard to really when the bread and circuses are coming out, and he doesn't need him this turn. He just needs him by the turn after next turn. So taking theology, I don't think is going to be that harmful to him. And so for that, partly for that reason, and also I could go for iron theology. Um, I'm not so sure that I'm gonna need iron because I'm gonna be raiding and plundering and getting my resources that way. And I don't have a lot of science, and so iron might just sit in my hand for quite a while. I'm gonna go instead for breakthrough. Um, yeah, and that'll get me basically, only getting two science a turn, so this is basically an extra turn uh, when it comes, in age two when I'm trying to get down some scientific method to get my science back to par. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Breakthrough and reserves. Now, what's a discard? It is really tough to discard this card, but oh, geez, I hate to do it, but these I think these other two or it would be either this or this. Obviously, I'm not going to discard my aggressions. And the reason I'm keeping the boat here is because I know there are territories coming up. That is a fact. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw away. Oh, medieval army. It's painful to do, but bye bye. So Ying Sijuan actually played an event, and there's the Reign of Terror. It's nice because I'm out of events at this point, and I need other people to, well, drive that one home. There's still the Crusades in there. He went and got the third Swordsman and Legion, so he's all set at 9. Although if he loses the Legion, if he loses the one Swordsman, then he's going to go back to 5. So here we have a historic territory. Now, of course I knew there were territories in there with Yang Zijuan researching cartography. Um, so I like to look at territories in two ways. Well, basically two sides of it. How much does it benefit me? How much does it benefit the others? Um, it honestly doesn't benefit. This one doesn't benefit me all that much. I'm already set up with reserves to get into this yellow right here, and if I lose a unit, then I'm actually not gaining a pop. Like normally, +1 happiness will get you a pop. Now, long term, it's going to be nicer than what I'm talking about right now. But short term, the short term benefit is pretty minimal. The long term benefit is also pretty minimal. Uh, it just puts me back at 2, right? Let's see. Yeah, it puts me at 2 swordsmen for until I get irrigation. Yeah, I'm just gonna pass on this. Wow. So he did go for it. Wow. Okay. That's exciting because I'm probably going to raid him then. He's gonna lose this alchemy and I'll gain 3. So he just sends the swordsman, of course. And Gary Pan is going into theology for the strength. Oh, look, he had fighting band. Oh, no, he adopted fighting band, my fighting band. So that puts him at 5, which, it's possible he has 2 boats and, um, yeah, so I'm gonna want to go for Yang Zijuan with the raid here. I do want to look again at the bid just to kind of think about what people have. So Gary Penn went up to 1. He had the 1 warrior. That was his highest bid. I didn't bid. Yang Zijuan had probably a bid of at least 4 because he has 2 boats on cartography. Yeah, so that doesn't really tell us too much. Gary Penn could have had boats, but then not wanted to use them because of my strength. So going up to 1, it doesn't really tell me what his boats look like. Anyway, it I'm definitely leaning towards the guaranteed raid versus the maybe plunder. So let's do that. Raiding Yang Zijuan. Yep. And the rest of my turn is really pretty obvious, I think. I don't think there's really any much of a decision to make. Finishing pyramids and taking university. University because I need science. That's my biggest weakness right now. Um, the other options, I mean, there really just aren't any other options. These I don't really need more resources. And frugality, I guess, I mean, I could, yeah, sure, more food would be nice, but not as nice as science. Not as nice as science. And I'm gonna be plundering Gary, hopefully, maybe next turn, or somebody. Maybe I plunder Young Zijuan. Um, Point being, I think I'm gonna have resources to finish this pretty shortly here. All right, let's end the turn and hopefully draw something interesting. Foray. Okay, I can play that. Yeah. If I don't see a good plunder opportunity, then there's always foray. Yang Zijuan's started the Great Wall. Going for monarchy and rebuilding that 3rd swordsman. He didn't have enough to rebuild another alchemy. Okay. It's a late monarchy for both of them. Kind of surprised, especially with Gary. You already had the 3rd military action. Um, well, all right. I got 2 choices: plunder or foray. I could try to plunder Gary. He probably has a boat, and yes, I'd flesh it out, but it's just 1 boat, and he did get that extra military action. Now, if he had 3, I might be a little more excited about getting 2 boats out of his hand. Uh, so maybe that's why he did monarchy. I don't know. But such as it is, foray. It's gonna be foray. Okay. So I do have to get out of this uprising, which is what the reserves are for. And then I have three actions. I could take Engineering Genius here, but of course that's not gonna be one of the top three choices. I'm just gonna go ahead and get out of corruption by building my wonder, and then third action, it's a toss up between Code of Laws and Urban Growth, and I'm gonna go with Urban Growth here because Code of Laws at six. I would, I already have my fifth civic action. The sixth one isn't quite as valuable. Um, I would much rather spend that science, save that science, and spend it on like constitutional monarchy, or second choice would be republic here. And urban growth. Once I finish this wonder, I'm gonna have zero resources, and I'm gonna want urban growth for something like team sports or organized religion or scientific method even. So to me, urban growth is a lot more important, and I'm gonna also need resources for irrigation. So that's what I feel like I'm short on. I got the science figured out at this point, and so I could afford code laws with that science, but I'd rather get resources right now. I feel like that's what I'm lowest on. Wow. Ooh, that is a great hand. I'm. This is like I said. This is one of those games. Annex is interesting, but mostly I'm excited about Classical Army because we have cavalrymen right there. That's it's unlikely that I won't have the chance to grab one of these horses, knights or cavalry. So that's pretty exciting. So there's the other territory that Yang Zinjuo had played in this round of events, a wealthy territory. Um, I don't know if I can bid for this because I don't have my food coming in. I don't have a happiness source. So if I do lose a guy, then I'm going to be kind of stuck at five military power. Um, Kind of unfortunate that I threw away the medieval army, but that's what I did. So yeah, if I were to, the only way to get back to a decent military would be to reach for this, and that would be one, two, three, four actions just to get team sports going, and then I wouldn't be able to grab this. This might still be there, so that would be my fifth, but then I would miss out on getting this going, which would be really nice because I have a pretty low science output right now, and scientific breakthrough is coming up. So I'm just not seeing I'm not seeing a lot of value in bidding for this. And the reality is, Yang Zejuan probably would win anyway. He he won't have any trouble getting back to three swordsmen. Obviously, he has a guy there, so he's gonna bid for this. He's gonna bid for. I There's no way I'm bidding five for this. That would be two swordsmen, which would be ridiculous. So I'm just gonna pass. Yep, he bid. He bid for. So there's a swordsman that he bid. Finishes the Great Wall, gets the lab going for Leonardo's bonus, and gets the third infantry out. So now he is the strongest. That's okay. As far as I know, it's just 4A. There's one of those mystery cards uncovered. That's probably the one that Gary played. He played one of the events this round. Builds a temple. Another temple. He didn't need the happiness, so he built that for the +2 strength, bringing him from 5 to 7. That's interesting. What does that tell us about his hand? Um, at least his hand before he drew these cards is he didn't think five is enough. I mean, he didn't need the happiness, but he just simply didn't think five strength was enough to survive possibly me and Yang Zijuan going after him. Or maybe even just one of us would have been enough to topple him. He does have, he had the four military actions, and, suppose he just had one boat, one age, one boat, and he could have defended against me, but not me and Yang Zijuan. So that's interesting. That's going to be hard for him to unwind though, because he's relying on Joan for these four strength, and he doesn't. Although he has cavalrymen, he doesn't really have a good way to move into that. He doesn't have a free pop, a free guy. He might dismantle one of his mines. I've seen Gary dismantle critical infrastructure in games before, and it's the right decision. And he's good at making those tough choices of sacrificing something that looks like it's really important. But he could also dismantle this temple that he just built. But then he would have to ask himself, why did I just build that temple? I guess to survive this round, just to survive till the next round until he had the science for cavalrymen, perhaps. I don't know. That's gonna be interesting to see how he unwinds from that. Let's look at Yang Zijuan. His happiness is solved with the Great Wall and the historic territory. My happiness, however, is not solved, and there could very well be a rebellion lurking in here. Scientific breakthrough is another event of concern that I want to prepare for, and I'm going to do that by finishing this wonder. I didn't have a political action, by the way. There's no point in me attacking Gary with +3. Anyway, so this gets me +2 science a turn, possibly an extra 4 science if that event happens, and um, so then I have 4 actions left. I definitely need knights. I could go for cavalrymen here, but um, I I don't have a whole lot of resources coming in. Knights is a lot cheaper, so I want to get this classical army out as soon as possible. So I'm gonna go with knights, and then I have 3 actions left. Now this is a huge combo to leave on the board for Yang Zijuan, the Basilica and Engineering Genius. I don't want to leave that for him. However, I cannot take both. I can only take the Basilica, and for me, that's going to be 8 resources. 8 resources to finish that, plus another 3 resources to get a temple, so I can get the second and third happiness. And that's 11 resources to fix my happiness problems. And I'm already feeling like I need, you know, 11 resources for other things. So, I mean, because I have knights I want to build, I want to build irrigation up, and possibly even get into some science upgrades. We'll see about that. So I don't feel like I have the resources for this. Also, if Yang Zijuan does take it, it's really for him only the 2 points per turn, which is still pretty good. He probably still should take it, but he doesn't need the happiness until much later in the game. He needs to get his farms going before he needs the happiness, and he doesn't have. Well, he has irrigation, but it's not like this is critical for him. He doesn't like absolutely need this right now. So I guess I'll leave it for him. It's hard to do, but I think this is going to be a better choice because it's only going to take 5 resources to fix my happiness issues, and that's a lot cheaper than 11. And the last action, I don't really have anything to do that's critical right now, but I can start this team sports at least. Yeah, so that's it. Um, let's end the turn, and then I have to discard 3 military cards. Phalanx can go. That, yeah. that can go. And then this, I don't think I need that with when I have classical army. I just don't need it. And then the last one is tough. The last discard is pretty tough. It's either plunder or the boat. And oh yeah, I'm. That's really tough actually. I think I'm gonna have to go with plunder. It's at this point 3 resources is not. I mean, it's kind of a big swing to have 6 resource swing, but I'm not. It's I don't see myself getting into the position. Well, you know what? That's not true. I have classical army. I guess the boat because the last 2 territories that came, I was not really in a position to lose the the pop, and that's going to be true for the next turn or two until I get irrigation really going. And I certainly don't need the defense. So yeah, I guess the boat, and I'll keep plunder, and maybe by the end of age 2, I will have the classical army going and be able to plunder Gary. We'll see. Cool. All right, so it looks like Yang Zijuan played Raiders, and how he has forced both of Gary and I to lose 2 resources or food. And St. Peter's, Engineering Genius, yeah, he's going for it. And he should. Why wouldn't he? And it's not like he needs it that badly, but it's still a great pickup for him. There it is. So that's the reason why I'm glad I finished that wonder. And this is how Gary is going to solve his military issues. Is he's just going to upgrade in place. He still has 2 guys on military, and he's tied for strongest. Not bad. All right, so I obviously don't have a political action to do. There's 4A in here. I don't want to be missing out on that. So skipping politics. Lose the 1 food, 1 resource, and we have an obvious choice for a leader, James Cook. Just kidding. Napoleon Dynamite. And I definitely want to get out of the happiness issues. Okay, so that leaves 3 actions, and I see 3 great picks, except I can't get all 3. So I'm going to elect Napoleon, and that does mean that I lose the 4 strength here. So I'm still the weakest, and so to overcome that, I'm going to copy Legion. And that leaves me with 3 actions, and bam, bam, bam. I don't really. I mean, this is just kind of going for value here. It's not really playing into Napoleon's hand, or not playing to his strengths. I mean, um, necessarily to get scientific breakthrough and scientific method. It's just kind of going for value. I have 3 really valuable cards right in front of me, and well, Napoleon being a 4th valuable card. So I just had a really good row. I'm just going to take the whole row, and I've prepared for rebellion in case that is rebellion. So I'm feeling pretty good about things. I'm ready for 4A. Now, Yang Ziduan probably gets to. What's he gonna do? I don't know. He can probably get stronger than Gary at least. He might just upgrade this and consider that good enough and be stronger than Gary. And then Gary, he doesn't really have a great path towards strength right now, other than, like I was saying before, disbanding one of these, which he might do. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, overall I'm feeling pretty good about this. I could upgrade here and just get a little bit stronger, but I don't think I really need to. And also, it would be 1 less military card I draw, and I'm gonna be disbanding this guy anyway, so it's a waste of resource. So I'm not gonna do that. And the 1 discard, that's tough. Popularization of science, I kind of want to keep that just because I might want to keep, I might want to push out an event on my next turn. I'm thinking plunder, honestly. They're all my favorites. All right, so I got. I mean, I could play. Anyway, never mind. Conquistadors and fortifications. Neither of which I'm interested in because I have classical army. But I'm glad to see that these are not going to fall into other people's hands. So Yang Zijuan has played another event and triggered Foray, which is good timing. This is a time where the military has kind of died down, and the military activity, that is like the aggressions and such, we're all kind of even on military, so it's a good time to invest. Zijuan's going for James Cook. Finishes the Basilica, goes for Cook. He's going at 6 points per turn now, which is quite a bit, really. Gary Pan has gone for breeding, selected breeding. He's looking to quickly get back onto good footing with the military. Having only 2 in military is pretty limiting. Now, I have a lot of directions I can go at this point. Let's look at the options really quick. There's the scientific method. There's irrigation. I could do an irrigation play where I go coal and irrigation, and there's that. There's a hybrid of scientific method and coal, which looks like this. And so that's a nice balance. This does have the drawback of, well, just actions really. I mean, I don't know, 5 actions a turn. Going into age 3, I'm really going to want more actions. Next turn, I'm going to have to research both of these. Well, maybe not irrigation, but definitely knights. And so I'm only going to have 6 science. I'm not going to be able to get, like, the other constitutional monarchy, for example. So going into age 3 with that few actions can be tough. I like this, actually. I like this a lot. It's just that one thing that bothers me. I like to be able to grab age 3 texts right when they come out. This is also something that I'm eyeing, that if I had more actions, I would be able to grab those things. And so what I'm favoring here is scientific method, upgrade, and hold on. Let me grab Republic. Sorry, not Republic. Constitutional monarchy. I wish I had one more science for Republic. And now we have the actions, 2 more actions to grab yellows and to grab age 3 technologies as they come out. Yellows will be especially important for what we are short on, which is resources. So we have Ridgeland coming, efficient upgrade, patriotism, urban growth, and these reserves. So tons of resources coming in. And then the last action would be between coal and frugality. And I think the right answer here is frugality, because again, we do have a lot of resources coming in. By the time I get coal down next turn, I really want to get knights down. It's not going to be coal. And the turn after that, it's stage 3 already. It's kind of too late for coal, I think. And part of that reason is, as I know where this is, I know that that's not in the deck. Now I could play it, of course, and then get into coal. There's that option too. But playing it, if I got into coal, I'd be at 5 a turn. These guys are already at 4 and 6 a turn, so it's not like a great play of an event for me right now. But what would be a good play if I were to go with this setup would be to play Popularization of Science. So, having said all that, I'm going to back up and play that card. Yeah, the Exiguan's got this. There's really no point in trying to fight too hard for it. So I'll bid my 2, and we'll wait for Yang Zhejuan to take it. Yes, he did win the colony, as predicted, with the warrior. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and follow through with that plan of getting lots of points and lots of science. And get the constitutional monarchy. Whoops. Yeah, that 3 science would have been kind of nice, huh? I would have gotten Republic right there. And then the last action will be for Gaudi in the turn. And now, of course, I have 100 military actions. I'll never have to discard anything that I really want. National Pride. I wonder who played that. 5 points for me. Probably Yang Zhejuan, I'm thinking. He just grabbed Cook. I don't know if he played an event that turn. I can look at the log. So he is going for irrigation. He gave up on waiting for selective breeding. He wants to get going. He doesn't need a whole lot of food output to keep a pretty good population increase going. Pack rejected. This would have given Gary's offering Yang Zhejuan +4 strength against me, basically. Nope. Not gonna happen. Alright. Transcontinental Railroad. Interesting. This will put Gary at 8 resources a turn and make me the weakest. It also makes up for the 4 strength that he's about to lose. So he'll be going right back down to 11. So I don't have, as the weakest player, I'm not too eager to play an event, even though that would possibly get Popularization of Science out. There's also, I do think there's a good chance that Gary, he's played 2 events here, 2 of these. And I think one of them is likely Iconoclasm. And I think that because I think he was planning to ride out Joan until age 3 and not take Newton or Napoleon and have us suffer Iconoclasm. That's just a guess. He plays that a lot. He also plays Cold War a lot. So I'm also kind of, thinking that might be of course it could be anything really. There are a lot of strength-based events. In fact, all the strength-based events are still unknown. Their location is unknown. So with that in mind, I don't really like to be the weakest right now. I do have, the way I see it, a couple options. I'm going to skip politics here. I definitely want to get knights. And these look really good to me right now. And then with the last 2 actions, a couple options here. One is I could go for strength, and that would be building a knight and stealing strategy. Strategy being one of the few remaining sources of military actions. There's still Kremlin, which Gary could definitely go for. He has a lot of resources coming in. There's still constitutional monarchy. Both of them have monarchy, so they're probably not going to take that. And then Gary could go for Max instead of Newton. Max would be the one more military action. But really, especially for Yang Zhejuan, this was his best way of getting more military actions. He has a pretty good amount of science, and that's probably, I don't know if that's the best use of his science, but it certainly could be. And by taking it, I'm denying him that. There's really nothing else to do with the 2 actions except the other option, which would be to not build the knight and instead go into irrigation. Now this this combined with frugality is enough to get me another two population by the end of the game. And that's certainly enough. That's certainly better than none. It's certainly worth doing. But I think what's worth doing even more would be to get the knight out. So I'm gonna just go ahead and build the knight because that makes me strongest. Seal strategy, which further weakens the other players, probably Yang Zedjuan, and let irrigation fall off. And I'm gonna obviously be looking for selective breeding, maybe even mechanized ag going forward. Okay, so I've the two tactics that I'm not using and economic progress. Cool. I have both spies in another boat. Yang Zedjuan has offered me a food per turn, and then he'll get one rock per turn. And of course, that's a better deal for him. It always is, having rocks at this stage of the game. But that being said, I think it is best to actually accept this offer. And the reason being, so there are two paths I could take. I can definitely take this. I don't think Yang Zedjuan's going to pick that. I could, I could get into that and get food myself and be fine. And one food isn't going to make a difference. It's about 5 food for the whole game. But if this board is really just, there's something else, some other opportunity, then that's better than selective breeding, I might want to get into that instead. And in that case, having the one food a turn is going to be great once these 4 yellows are gone and I'm losing 3 food a turn. I can get let's say I can get 2 food and then cancel the pact, and then I'll be able to survive when I'm losing a food per turn. Rather than, and this is an easy way to do that than getting reserves and spending that on food. So I'm going to accept. I might be canceling it in the near future, maybe not. Gary gets his second irrigation going. Steals scientific method from, Yang Zedjuan that's whose turn it is. He just stole Gary's scientific method, which I love, because Newton's right there would have been way too good of a combo. Alright, Gary's offering me 4 strength in exchange for 5 points. I have to give him roughly 5 points over the course of the game. And what I can do with that 4 strength, of course, is attack Yang Zedjuan. This tells me that Gary would really just rather not deal with my strength and would rather build. He does have a lot of resources. He might want to get into journalism with combo with Isaac Newton, but he knows that maybe he has no boats right now, and he knows that if he just does that, then he's risking that he doesn't draw a boat and get attacked. So that's his perspective on this. I believe he just doesn't want to deal with me. He'd rather give me incentive to go fight Yang Zedjuan. From my perspective, I do have war on territory and spy and another spy. And this is an annex. There's nothing really to annex right now. He doesn't have anything good to annex. I guess the happy face would be all right, but really it's the spies for me. The combo of war over territory and following that up with a spy. And I might actually spy on Gary. He might be lulled into a false sense of security, and then I go spy on Gary. He doesn't have a lot of science coming in at the moment, although if he gets journalism with Newton, he certainly will. But there are a lot of good directions I can take this. The only downside being those 5 points I have to give Gary. Um, I I usually like being on the reverse side of this. I like being the weak one, offering somebody else strength so they can leave me alone. And it's really good. It's really good for both parties. And who wins in this is whoever's able to make the most of it. And if Gary can make the most of his leave me alone status and get into journalism and really ramp up what he's lacking right now, which is science, then he's going to win quite a bit. If I can use it though to steal a ton of science and yellows and possibly more later, then it's going to be great for me. So it's really hard to say right now who it's going to benefit the most. But I'm going to accept it, knowing that if I ever need to cancel it, all I have to do is attack Gary. Yep. So Gary's going Newton and journalism, as predicted. He's going to completely ignore military, and he goes from 3 science a turn to 7. He goes from 3 points a turn up to 6 with the pact, and he's looking in a he's a pretty dominant position at this point. He has all of his bases covered here. Um, the Exiduan's weak on science. I'm weak on everything but science. Uh, I do have more civic actions than them and military actions, so that's really my that kind of makes up for the fact that I'm weak on resources. Anyway, Gary's looking. The point being, Gary's looking really strong. Now I have a war on territory and classical army, and someone's about to die. Um, the question is who, though. The way I see it, Yangzijuan with the Great Wall, he could build a cannon and a swordsman. That's +7. He might have defensive army. That'd be a +11 total. Gets to 20. Gets himself to 26. I can go to 29. I've already done that math. Um, Gary, on the other hand, he doesn't have. I mean, he could have a defensive army himself. He has tons of resources. Wave of Nationalism +13 is 19 resources. That's 3 level 2 units, which is 9 alone. Or even better, he could just build 2 cannons and then have defensive army himself. I think that's actually more likely that he has defensive army than Yang Zijuan, because I think Yang Zijuan would have played it by now if he had it. He built a 4th swordsman instead of defensive army. Um, no guarantee, of course, but anyway, I think if Gary Pan did have defensive army, he could also go to +11, which would be 22. And if I'd attacked Gary, I'd be at 25 against 22. So either way, I'm looking to steal probably 1 yellow from either of them. My next question would be who's going to miss it the most? And if you look at Yang Zijuan, he has 3 more yellows in his 4 cost bank, whereas Gary only has 1. And so the answer to that for me is definitely that Gary would miss it the most. So for that reason, and also for the fact that I will start getting my points back. I mean, I wasn't gonna give Gary 10 points or 5 points, but anyway, I would like to give him fewer points than necessary. So I'm gonna declare war on Gary. And I do want selective breeding and urban growth. This is just me going for what I'm really low on, which is resources and food. And then how to win the war. Patriotism is going to be a part of that. And then I'm going to move this guy over there in classical army. There's 23. Okay, there's 23. So Yingzijuan, like I was saying, or no, sorry, Gary. Gary, like I was saying, I think he can max, the most he can get is 22. So this does get me to where I need to be. Of course, he could have a pact, military alliance. Excuse me. Um, anyway, I think this puts, it's unlikely that he wins the war with things as it is right now. Then the next question for me is, do I spend these last two actions getting navigation and researching that? Puts me at 25. Or do I just take Richland, getting even more resources, which is what I really need? And that for me that's the hardest decision of this turn. Besides who to attack, that was also hard. But I'm gonna go with navigation here because I know that there are more territories in this deck. I mean, there just has to be. Yang Zijuan would not have gone James Cook, I don't think, without needing to, without having more territories. I mean, if you look at who's played what, I think that was Yang Zijuan's actually, but this is definitely Yang Zijuan's. And okay, it's not going to be anything amazing, but anyway, the point is that the three boats from navigation are probably going to come in handy. And 6 science for 2 strength is actually a pretty good deal. I have a pretty good strength, pretty good science output, and I don't have to put any resources into that. It's just 2 strength without any resources put into it. I think long term that's going to pay out, and plus there's a lot of but a lot of benefits for impacts for having navigation. So that is the turn. That is my play, and let's see what I pull. I have to discard 1 card. I really don't like Ravages right now. I'm just gonna get rid of that. Yeah. Goodbye. Things that you on get into cannons. He gets +4 strength. He takes reserves and revolutionary idea. Didn't get into scientific method, so that's what I wanted. I wanted to put some pressure on him. And we have a wealthy territory up for bid. I'm definitely cannot bid for this myself. I would drop 10 points right there of military power. Probably Gary wouldn't be able to just because of the food requirements. And I don't even know if Yang Zijuan would want to, because that would be, he loses a swordsman, that's 3 strength. That puts him at 16 against my 25. He's got to be worried about aggressions. Depends on, of course, what kind of boats he has. But pretty straightforward answer here for me, which is to pass. Zijuan did bid. Okay. So he got 9 resources at the cost of a swordsman. That's what I wanted to see right there. I wanted to see part of his infrastructure destroyed. He's now at just 5 science a turn. Builds 2 cannons, and yep, there it is, the defensive army. And interesting, the last section, last 2 actions, taking democracy and increasing his food production. I don't think he's going to be researching democracy necessarily. Let's look at his field again. He has 7 science. He does have revolutionary idea. He might end up revolting into it, but I think the main reason he took that was so that I wouldn't have it, because he knows that an early democracy is pretty nice. So let's see. I think my best play here is to go ahead and spy on Yang Zijuan. He did lose 3 strength to get that wealthy territory. Puts himself in a position where he could. I mean, if he has 2 double boats, he's fine. But if he has those, I want to get those out of his hands so that he feels the pressure to match my military. So even if this doesn't land, it's still going to be great for pushing him out of developing his infrastructure. All right, so I got the 5 science, which is great. It means that Ying Zijuan didn't have more than one double boat. And so, given that he doesn't have more than one double boat, he's probably going to be, feeling the pressure to, okay, I need to catch up on military a little bit. Um, so I have two of the best Age 3 techs right in front of me. So I'm going to definitely take both of these. I'll go ahead and research civil service and get 2 more actions per turn for the rest of the game. Computers, definitely taking that. And then with, 6 actions left, I could either research computers and get plus, I probably only do it once just because, well, I could do it twice. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, this is actually all right because then I could next turn have enough for a Air Force in case the need arises. And then not really sure what I'd do with the last action, honestly. That's kind of an issue. And the other problem with this is that I don't have any food. I'll have to disband a bronze if I want to get into Air Force. And this is also, yeah, I mean it's not terrible, but it's it's not. I don't think it's ideal. Let's look at another path. The other way is to go select breeding, and increase that once. In the next turn, I'll have enough food for the pop increase, frugality, and the turn after that, enough food for the next pop increase. And that leaves me with 4 actions to grab yellows, and I would grab these 2. And so the net result of that is, yeah, I'm only going to have 11 science, not enough for Air Force, but I have 4 more resources going into next turn. And the extra food also. So I'm favoring that. Another path is go for just all out on food, and yeah, so maybe get some food, some more resources there, and then just get that. But again, this is 4 fewer resources, and I just poured 4 resources into food. And so it's really 8 fewer resources for other things. And yeah, it's a lot of food, and maybe I don't get Air Forces at all. Maybe I need all that food to build another classical army. But overall, I just think that is a bit of a losing strategy. If I do need another classical army, I could disband all these guys if there's an emergency. But to take a step back from all these these 2 paths and just look at the overall picture, I have a great economy at this point. Not points for sure, but look at the actions, look at the science, and the resources are going to come from the actions. I definitely have a potential winning economy here, and I think what I need to do is acknowledge that these 2 have enough resources coming in themselves and a decent amount of food that they can sorry about that, they can definitely catch up on military and maybe even pass me in military. So I think my days as the strongest are numbered, and that I'm going to have to focus more on my weakness of resources to be able to turn what I have into points. And that's going to be through I think a mixture of staying like on par on military, and so I will get this extra guy out next turn. Oops, but not to the point where I'm like just doing that. So this is what my turn looks like in the end. Civil service, computers, upgrade the farm just to get some military going. The possibility of getting the Air Force out, and not going to really and again maximizing the resource grab that I'm doing here. I just took 8 resources out of the row, and that I think is going to be the best like overall strategy of not going too far into military, not going too far into science, just kind of taking a bit of a middle ground approach, but one that best maximizes what I have, which is that if all I need is this for food, and I get a pop increase next turn, which leads to a pop increase the following turn. That's all the food I need for now. And as for science, I got a good amount of science coming in. This doesn't need to happen right away unless it'll be something I do if I get Bill Gates, of course. Which, by the way, would be awesome. Given that there's no great target for Annex right now, and I'm not in a position to Annex. I'm sure Yang Zedulon's going to get strong enough. I'll go ahead and throw away Annex. Okay. Oh boy. Oh boy. So this, yeah, I could really push military at this point if oh man, that might be the way out. Actually, this might be what I do. We'll see. All right, so this is what I get for attacking both of them, I suppose. They have formed a military alliance that cancels my pact where I was getting a food per turn. Zedulon getting another cannon for +4 strength and another swordsman, so he's all ready for 2 defensive armies that he can copy next turn. That'll put his tactic strength from 2 to 10, 2 to 12, which is +10. And I'm glad this came out now before Gary got too much more science. So I just picked up 3 points on Gary. There's the +2 science, +2 points a turn. All right, well, there's Bill Gates right there for 2. Either way, I'm going to play this vast territory and see what happens. And I'm playing this just for the 2 points, by the way. Okay, cool. Definitely going to want Bill Gates and Air Force. And I'm going to want to hire Bill Gates. That's another 4 resources per turn. So I just picked up 12 resources for this game. And there are basically two paths to take, 2 main branches here. One, they all start with frugality. But one branch would be to start developing, getting into, excuse me, my second classical army. And by building just 2 of those pieces, it lets me next turn go strategy and then Air Force and culture war and build the rest of the classical army with an Air Force, which is a pretty strong play. That's 50 points, I believe. I'd be at 50 military, and yeah, it'd be pretty strong war. I believe Gary would probably be the target, uh, just because he has I don't know, he's gonna have a harder time. Just resources, really. I mean, military buildup, like so many resources over here, and it ultimately would depend on who got the other Air Force. But here's the thing about this path is that I'm gonna have to start tearing apart this stuff, and it's not gonna look good for impacts when the impacts hit at the end. And not only this stuff, but I'm gonna actually, if I'm gonna want 2 full classical armies, that's 4 more guys, right? So that's these 3 plus this guy, and that's just gonna be awful for impacts. especially impact of science. It's one thing I'm concerned about. So, um, and not only that, but if I keep resources for stuff like wonders and maybe next turn I get movies, that's more points that I can get, and I can always do a war on culture on the penultimate turn, not next turn, but the turn after. So rather than try to like go all out for a war next turn, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take engineering, research it, and build another scientific method. I'll use urban growth 3 because I'm keeping urban growth 2 for the 3 resource team sports. And that's going to end up being way better for impacts. Impact of variety, impact of tech, impact of progress, um, and even architecture. I mean, there's a lot of impacts that I wish I had drawn by now, but they are in there, and it's going to make it harder for other people to play those impacts, and way easier for me to play those impacts. So that's the turn. Huge discard to have to do here. One is going to be modern army. At this point, it's just unrealistic for me to get tanks and just modern infantry, which is falling off the row anyway. So there's just no way I'm getting modern army. I'm not going to be doing 2 culture wars. I can get rid of one of those. I can get rid of the spy. I'm just not. It's not going to really matter by the time I actually play that. And then it's down to either raid or a boat. And I really don't have. I'm not in a good position to colonize anything at the moment. So I'm gonna get rid of the boat. And I could also say raid here because, boy, I mean, I don't know. The only thing about raid though is it can make a huge difference for impact of science. So I'm gonna keep raid and get rid of a boat. Well, rats. I still don't have any impacts. That's really unfortunate. Um, yeah, I might have to build up to a culture war after all. And I don't know. I guess what else is here? We got fast food. I don't think that's going to be there by the time it's my turn, but we'll see. So Yang Zijuan plays an age 2 event triggering Iconoclasm, which is great for me because they just lost their leaders, both of them. Yang Zijuan going for Albert Einstein as a replacement. Picks up 1 science a turn. And then multimedia, which will be +5 science a turn if he gets one of those down. Gary Pan triggered immigration with another impact that he just played, and that goes to Yang Zijuan. So he gets a free pop. Gary's going for democracy now, bringing his points per turn up to 10. And yes, he does take fast foods. So no double wonder for me. I'll be lucky to get space flight at all. And so here I again have that choice, guns or butter. And the way I see it, if I do nothing on my turns, if I just pass my next 3 turns, I'm about 67 points behind Gary Pan, and that's taking into account the impacts that I think he played, which are, I believe, impact of industry, impact of ag, and impact of balance. Those are really the only 3 that he has a good chance at. The others just don't really make any sense for him. So anyway, about 67 points I have to make up. I figure if I go for a war here and do something like this, basically it's going to be, let's see here. Yeah, it'll look like this, kind of like what I was doing before. And maybe get strategy down, get patriotism. and why not? Do that while I can. Um, I'll probably end up at I will be at 67 military strength. Gary, if he doesn't get Air Force, I think he's going to get like an extra 21 strength. He could get a little more if he really wanted to sacrifice. He might get to 20, 24 if he sacrifices. And it just depends on how many of these he sacrifices. um, and yeah, that would push him at some point, push him off of this. But that's the thing, is I don't think he's going to sacrifice to the point where he can't build fast food. Anyway, the point being that I think it would push him. I think he would get down to where he was losing by about 26 military, roughly. So I would get 52 points on that war. But I would lose, next turn I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose 5 points in agriculture, 3 points in impact of industry, 10 points in impact of balance, and yeah, I'll get an armed intervention after that. But the net total of that's about 48 points, and that's not enough. I need 67. So I'm going to look at another path, which is, again, skipping politics. Let's look at these movies. I can build 2 movies right now, and that alone is 24 points. And I still have enough resources for that space flight now. I got 8 resources coming in twice. That's 16 right there. I would go ahead and play this for the 3 rocks, and so then I'd have 8 resources again for another movies. 24. What was that total be? It's 14 plus the 4 here is 18 plus another 8. 26 resources. And this, to me, looks like, I get 24 points now, another 8 points for the movie next turn. And then spaceflight, I put it at about 31 points. That's a total of 63 points. I'm only sacrificing, I'll be losing this other guy probably, but losing this one of the miners. So that's 2 on industry, 4 points on balance, because I'm not going to be able to get this upgraded. So that's 4 points on balance, and that's total about 57 points that I would get, which is a lot better than the war scenario, which is I put it at 48. And both these scenarios are, but this one's dependent on me getting spaceflight. If it comes out right now after my turn, Yang Zijuan could grab it instead. Gary could not grab it. He could not finish this and grab spaceflight. That's just too many actions. But Yang Zijuan could grab it, and that would spoil my plan. Either way, it's only 57. I need 67, so I do need an impact. I need to draw an impact that benefits me by at least 10 points, the way I see it. So yeah, I do like this path better, and I'm going to go ahead and go with that and end the turn. And I have to discard 3 military cards. Those are now pretty useless to me. There could be Historic 2 coming out, but I wouldn't want to lose one of these to get it at this point. I only have, like I said in the plan, I only have 2 extra resources, which could be a swordsman turning into a warrior. But anyway, those are going to be gone soon anyway. I guess the War of Culture is obviously, that's not going to happen. I don't need 2 of these. So you know what? Let's back that up a little bit. What's this, raid? I'm just not going that path at all. So honestly, maybe I should just keep this and throw out the aggressions that I don't need. So War of Culture, Plunder, and Armed Intervention. None of those I'm going to be using. Technically, I think this is actually superior, but anyway, minor details on that. Come on, impacts. I need impacts. Ugh. So Vast Territory is up for bid. This is the one I played for the 2 points earlier. So Yang Zijuan did just play an impact, and I would say the only impact that he should play is probably, um, well, either he could have played Happiness, I suppose, but Colonies is the most obvious choice for him. So I could see this as potentially picking up 3 points, but my gut just says pass here. I overall it's the most I get is 3 points out of this, but then I miss out on getting the 8 points for another movies, and it's just puts me in a bad position with aggressions and all that. So I'm gonna pass. So Yang Sijuan sends a swordsman and a double boat. Let's get into that multimedia and democracy. He'll have just enough for democracy without the revolutionary idea, and he builds a cannon. And I find that interesting because had he built a swordsman, he would have been he would have had a lot more strength. So I'm curious to see what the what the reason for that was. Gary also plays an event and triggers prosperity. We all get some food. And then he spends 3 actions on military theory. Wow. 5 out of his 7 actions dedicated towards getting military theory. And I have to wonder if that's because of the strength. Like, did he play Impact of Strength and it's just sitting here waiting? Or did he play Impact of Progress? And if he played Impact of Progress, he might have done that like way, way, way before. I mean, he did play these events pretty early. He played this. He played the first one before I had spied on Yang Zijuan, before I had civil service, and so that could be progress. It could be. It could, for that matter, had been strength. But the thing about strength is, I had Napoleon. Then again, he might have played Iconoclasm. So maybe he had played Iconoclasm before and played Impact of Strength, knowing that Iconoclasm would come out first. I would lose Napoleon, and he'd be working towards strength. So I don't know. There's a good chance that is strength in there. Definitely skipping political either way. The first action is spaceflight. And now I could try to beat him on strength here. I could go Air Force, and boom, I'm at 34. And then Yang Zijuan would have to decide, all right, well, if Gary's playing this as if it were strength, and then Japhet followed through, and now he's the strongest, do I really want to play an event? He probably won't play an event. And then Gary, I don't know if he has any more impacts or not. He's already played 4, for goodness sake. I don't think he could really have anything all that exciting anyway. And so he might just skip and go to, just skip it and make sure that he's stronger, and not trigger his own event. And then I would follow this up with fundamentalism and what else? Reserves. And so then I could go plus 10 after this, with 5 with this, and then I have another 7 left over after building this to get plus 10. I'd be at 34. And that works if Gary's best strength plan was to build just 2 of these. There's also a nice tactic here for him. If he builds 2 cannons and has that tactic, then he could easily win strength just by doing that. So I'm not really guaranteeing myself anything here. I'm just perhaps delaying. I'm like preventing these guys from playing their next impacts, which probably aren't amazing. Who knows? There might be. Maybe Yang Zijuan just drew Impact of Territory, and that's why he didn't copy the tactic, was because he wanted to draw Impact of Territories. Really hard to say. There are a lot of what ifs at this point. This path kind of maybe gets me Impact of Strength at the end. if it's in there, which it probably is somewhere. It's probably either in the deck or in one of their hands. But let's look at another path. Let's back it up to here. I definitely want space flight. If I would just take this for 6 points and then build a movie for 8 points, that's 14 points right there. But if I do this play, I also have to play strategy, because if they both attack me from this point of view, from this position, I'm about to lose these boats. I only have 1/6 boat, and so yeah, I would prevent the first attack, but not the second one. And so that's why I need to research strategy. And so all that looks to be about, I'm going to say it's about 19 points that I just picked up, versus, that's including I'm counting this as like 10 points, because I think Impact of Happiness is probably in there somewhere. I don't know why else he would have gone with the extra to Temple. And then I got 6 points here, and it's, then the fact that I don't have to research, get just +1 on space flight with like 18 science, means that I can spread that out amongst two techs, and this is probably gonna be one of them. That's about, all in all, it's about 19 points, and maybe winning the hypothetical Impact of Strength is worth 21 points, which is more, but it's a maybe and it's hypothetical. So I'm gonna go for the points that I can see right now. And yeah, that's it. This is a really tough decision, though. I really had to weigh that out, and look at all the impacts, look at all the possibilities. Just want to give you guys a quick view of what the impacts were: 2 from Gary, and then 2 more from Gary here, and then 1 from Ying Zijuan. And quick overview of the points right now. I put myself at about 119 points at the end of this. That's with the space flight and all that. Gary looks like he's going to end up with about 114. This is all before impacts. And Ying Zijuan might end up with about 99 before impacts again. Or no, I count 99 as I'm assuming that he found his impactor colonies. If he didn't, he's going to have 15 less points than that. So we'll see. I'm going to end the turn in this madness. I have to discard 2 cards, so they might as well be the 2 double boats that are going to go away anyways. And hopefully I will draw an impact that I can use. Oh, jeez. Wow. Impact of Architecture. So that's one of the ones that Gary played super early in the game, back when I was Napoleon and he had journalism, and I looked like I was just going to attack everything, and he probably thought he was going to have the advantage here. That's why he played it. Ying Zijuan develops Democracy for +3 points a turn, which is +3 points. And maybe a impacted government play, perhaps. Progress, I don't know. And he gets not only does he get the multimedia, he also gets a alchemy, which kind of puts me on the defensive on science now, because I can't build my wonder and get impact of science if he's played that. Gary Pan is finishing his fast food, and builds a temple. Might want to reverse the order of those next time. And now he goes for the strength again. He goes to the strongest position. That's twice in a row. It's 2 turns in a row that he has made an effort to be the strongest. And at this point, I wasn't totally convinced that this was Impact of Strength. I also wasn't convinced that I could win Impact of Strength if I tried. Now I'm convinced of both. And I do regret not going for the strength play last turn because I could have gotten the strength and finished this. But right now, I can't do both. I have to choose. Um, let's, like, we can look briefly at what that would look like to just do the default thing, which is, finish this, build these stages, gain 4. Basically, it's 29 points, right? Okay. And then I would play that for 6 and then upgrade that. And that's a 1-point upgrade for Bill Gates. And it was going to secure my position as the science leader, but that's no longer going to be the case because we're tied and the tie goes to the earlier player. So anyway, that was what I was gonna do, and these last two actions I don't have anything to do with them. But now that I am pretty sure that this is strength, everything changes. Everything changes here. If I were to just let that happen as it is, impact of strength, Gary gets 14. If I make an effort to take it, I get 14. That's 28-point swing. I'm also going to be able to, if I were to focus on strength, I also could, in other words, if I'm not going to build this wonder, I'm not going to get those 29 points, but I can get the 28-point swing from the strength. Not only that, but I can get the science, impact of science on my side. And that'll be 14 as opposed to only 7 points. So that's a plus 7-point difference against Gary. And I'm only focusing on Gary because I do think that this game is between the two of us at this point. So at 7 on Gary and then 28 for the strength. That's 35 points. Not to mention the extra 1 point that I get for having another computers. So now we're at 36, and I'm still doing this either way. So let's look at that really quick, and then I could even go into a temple for that matter, and that's I'm being pretty sure that there's impacted happiness. That's another 3 points right there. So what are we at here? I lost track, but it's way more than 29 is a point. And what could I do with this? I don't even. That could be food. If we back up a second, I don't have to disband that second bronze. So this could be food. Oops. Yeah, I didn't rehearse this. Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay. So I am winning impact of strength. I'm winning impact of science. And I even got a +1 happiness to boot. And I like that better, honestly. It's, I think either way, judging by, just based on my guess as to what these impacts are, I think I would win either way, but this is a larger margin of a victory. And it would have been even larger had I taken fundamentalism. And even though I would have lost impact of science with fundamentalism in play, I could have finished this guy, and that would have been huge. So, anyway, oh well, that's life. I mean, we could also say that impact of architecture could have been impact of strength, and I got lucky there. I got lucky that it wasn't, and I got lucky to have a second sign that yes, impact of strength is in there. Anyway, this could be all talk. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm totally wrong about all this, but this I believe is the stronger play than trying to finish that wonder. There's science. Now, that's not going to tell me that that was the next one or not. That could have been buried in the other pile because everything's shuffled together. But yes, science was one of them. Glad I went for that. There's agriculture. Gary Pan took that pretty handily. Right. Only got 4 on that. Oh, okay, balance. So that might have been. Who would have played that? I mean, we all did pretty decently in balance. So that could have been Yang Zijuan. Colonies. Okay, so Yang Zijuan played Colonies and Gary played Balance. So Yang Zijuan did get his massive 15 points. And there it is. Thank you. Strength was in there. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, after 2 turns of Gary going for strength, I had to, finally dawned on me that, oh, might be strength in there. I might have to go for that myself. And then with Bill Gates, the 8 points, they get the victory. All right, so a little post analysis here. First, I want to acknowledge the mistake from last turn, which was that I should not have increased pop at all, because that lost me 4 points on impact of agriculture. That gives you 4 bonus points if your food production exceeds consumption. And I knew that, and I figured agri was in there, but I did it anyway. I wasn't really thinking. So that lost me 4 points, really, right? 4 points. Anyway, I don't think that obviously that didn't lose me the game, but it was a very, very close game between Gary and I. I mean, all three of us were really close, and but I really wasn't sure who was going to win until the very, very end, until those impacts came out. It did turn out to be the right decision to not build the space flight, because even though Impact of Happiness wasn't in there, I don't know how Gary fooled. I mean, he tricked me on that. He built 4 temples, 8 happiness, and had not played Impact of Happiness. But maybe he thought I played it, or maybe he thought I would play it. I don't know. He kind of tricked me into that. So this wasn't all that big of a play as I thought it might be. That should have probably been another guy on ag. But it turned out to be the right play to go for the strength and the science, because those were both in there. And had I built the space flight, that would have been 30 points for that turn. And then, but instead I went for strength science, which ended up being 37 points. So that's 7 points right there. That would have been the difference. I mean, that's 7 points. So some of the keys I think in this game that helped me win, that Genghis setup was really, really nice. Heavy cavalry, irrigation, which I never researched, and swordsman, all those for one civic action. I had Reign of Terror in there, and that came out against Gary, which he didn't have any farm upgrades at the time, and so that set him back quite a bit. And I was able to raid Yang Zijuan for one of his alchemies, which set Yang Zijuan back, and that set me up pretty well for the middle of the game. And then I was getting 2 science a turn. That was one of my weak points, was only 2 science a turn. But then I found a university at the very end of age 1, and so that was also really important for me to get that science boosted a little bit. And then Napoleon showed up for 1 civic action along with scientific method. I think that was the next turn, but anyway, those were all 1 civic action, and a couple of really quality yellows like breakthrough and efficient upgrade. And then I think the turn after that, I tried to steal strategy. I did steal strategy. I didn't need it. But the theory behind that was, I'll take strategy and I'll have a bunch of military actions, and they won't have more than 3. And therefore, I'll draw all of the impacts. And how did that go? Not as planned. I ended up drawing no impacts. So that was interesting. In hindsight, I probably still would do it again, just because denying military actions is great if you have the free actions, and I didn't really have anything better to do with those 2 actions. The territory war against Gary, that was not a nice thing to do after he just offered me a pact. So I do apologize, Gary, for any hard feelings over that, but I think it was the right decision for me. It did get you, it did put pressure on your population a little bit. You weren't able to just like increase pop and build a journalist straight away. You had to go into happiness a little bit more. And it also helped me a little bit, because I was able to do the reverse. I was able to build a 3rd scientific method with that guy. And so that was nice. And then the spy against Yang Zijuan, also cruel, because he had, offered me that pact where I was getting free food, and I think he ended up being a little sour about that. So he ended up canceling that the next turn and um, making a pact with Gary for 3 strength each. But I don't know. I still think that was the right play for me to steal that 5 science. Agree, disagree. It wasn't the biggest deal, 5 science either way. But I did use all but 3 science, so I guess in the long run, yeah, I guess that did actually help. I don't think I could have afforded everything I did. And then, of course, the real hero of the game, Bill Gates. Bill Gates just wins games by himself. If I ever have scientific method or better, and Bill Gates shows up and it's like middle age 3 or better, I almost always go Gates. He's just so powerful. And engineering showed up also uh, for one civic action again, and that ended up saving me 13 resources. Engineering did. So I think those were the key plays. I had a lot of stuff kind of just handed to me, which I was very lucky to get a lot of those things for as cheap as I did. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about any of the decisions I made. Let me know like and decisions like that I could have maybe done better. I've pointed out a few mistakes that I made, and there are probably several more. But yeah, let me know what you think about some of the decisions I made, and also if you are interested in joining this ladder, please add me. My name is right here, and add me in the game and tell me you want to join the ladder, and we'll see if we can make it happen. So until next time, this is Japheth, and hope you enjoyed this game. Bye bye.